Hello. Depending on where you are logging in from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Building Inclusive Recovery Cities, an international movement for community building recovery and prevention. My name is Amy Ronshausen. I'm the Executive Director of Drug Free America Foundation, and I also serve as the International President of the World Federation Against Drugs. I want to thank ISSUP and the Center for Addiction Recovery Research for hosting this event today, and I'm honored to be your moderator for this very important topic. Let me take this opportunity to also tell you a little bit about ISSUP and who they are. ISSUP stands for the International Society of Substance Use Professionals. It was launched in 2015 as a global, not-for-profit, non-governmental organization to professionalize the global prevention and treatment workforce. ISSUP provides members with opportunities to share knowledge, exchange experiences, and stay abreast with current research in the field. They have more than 37,000 members worldwide, and you can join one of their 4 levels of membership for free at their website, which is www.issup.net. I'd also like to quick plug the Art of Healing conference that will be held in a few weeks and I know I'm probably going to say this wrong, Thessaloniki, Greece. I hope to see some of you there. Please come by and say hello. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the website, the ISSUP website, in 48 hours for you to watch and to share with others. So without any other housekeeping things, I'm going to go ahead and get started, but please give me some grace in case I forget something, and I will cover that as well. We are gathered here today to explore the innovative approaches to public-facing recovery programs that challenge stigma and exclusion. Our focus is on promoting visibility, active citizenship, and community engagement as key strategies for early intervention and prevention. As we work towards recovery, it is crucial to ensure that nobody is left behind. This webinar aims to shed light on the transformational power of inclusive recovery initiatives that foster a sense of belonging and support for all individuals, especially those in recovery. The Inclusive Recovery Cities model, which has been live since 2018, currently involves around 30 cities in 8 European countries. The aim of this movement is to celebrate the achievement of addiction recovery through public events that challenge stigma, increase access for recovering populations to community resources, and contribute to civic society and active citizenship. This webinar will examine the logic and history of Inclusive Recovery Cities model and its impact today, partly based on evaluation data from the Balkan component of the project and case studies from the UK. We have an exciting lineup of speakers who will share their insights and experiences from different parts of the world. They will discuss how their initiatives are making a positive impact on individuals and communities, driving us toward a more inclusive and supportive society. Before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody that we will have, there is a spot for your questions and questions that we can answer some of those in the chat box. Please put them there and we can go over that toward the end of the presentations. Thank you again for being with us, and let's get started by allowing me to introduce our first speaker, David Best. David is a professor of addiction recovery at Leeds Trinity University in the UK, and is also the director of the Center for Addiction Recovery Research in Leeds. He holds an honorary academic post at the Australian National University, Monash University in Melbourne, Australia, and the Public Health Institute in California in the US. David is the chair of the Prison Research Network for British Society of Criminology, and he has led a number of international recovery research projects and is a leading researcher in the area of recovery capital. Please help me welcome David. And David, the floor is yours after the video.
Addicts, we are just people, and to be perceived as outside of society just because you've made some bad choices. You know, they're all someone's son or daughter.
The north of England is at the centre of a drugs crisis, with the northeast this year having the highest number of drug-related deaths in England once again.
We've seen a hell of a lot more people accessing the service over the last few years.
This has led to a radical reshaping of what addiction recovery is.
We want recovery to be accepted and celebrated at every juncture within this town.
And they hope this new positive approach to addiction can save lives across the UK. The northeast of England has seen rising numbers of deaths because of addiction for years.
How long ago?
We're all in recovery.
Now, some towns and cities in this part of the UK are looking for unconventional solutions.
Right, let it sit for a bit before we start pushing down on it.
This charity in Middlesbrough wants the whole community talking about addiction.
You're an alcoholic? Ex? You're an ex?
Cocaine.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm an ex-alcoholic. It's tough.
Every now and again.
The offer is simple: a free coffee to anyone willing to talk about recovery for 5 minutes.
The whole point really is to break down the stigma that's attached to addiction. When we do this coffee break, I guarantee you that I will speak to someone, and if they haven't got a problem, they know someone that has.
I lost my nana right before lockdown, so instead of grieving, I just used cocaine.
Yes.
By the end of lockdown, I was gone. 3 months later, I'm in rehab. You know, today I'm studying a 10-month clean. You know, it's a miracle.
Offering a free coffee doesn't sound that radical, but at its heart is a totally different way of approaching addiction.
All of our staff are in recovery. We're a lived experience recovery organisation. We want to show recovery as something that is filled with hope. It's filled with aspiration. It's filled with people living their best life and achieving great things.
One of the big things about Middlesbrough is it's right at the forefront of innovation.
Middlesbrough is the UK's first member of the Inclusive Recovery Cities programme. And today, volunteers and staff working in addiction recovery are meeting in the town.
It fundamentally challenges the idea that recovery is about getting rid of lots of bad stuff. It's a process of social transcendence.
Inclusive recovery is about revealing the value of people recovering from addiction to wider society, and crucially to remove the shame and stigma of the problem.
We can raid houses all day long, but actually what we need to do is make sure that narrative is right. We need a combination of multiple different tactics, but if we just do the enforcement, we're never going to get that whole picture.
Schemes like this one in Middlesbrough could soon be repeated across the country.
It is just fabulous that we have 5 cities represented in person here.
Volunteers and staff from various UK cities are gathering today to share ideas. Cities hope this will benefit wider society by potentially reducing crime, antisocial behaviour and alleviating pressure on the NHS.
Who is signing up for the next stage of this project?
Leeds is another city looking to join the Inclusive Recovery programme. The 5 Ways Recovery Academy puts on events and activities to give people new experiences outside of addiction.
I was a functioning alcoholic for 20 years. You know, I'd like to raise people's awareness that we are just people that have made bad choices, and we do deserve that second, first chance anyway, you know, what some people don't have.
Why is it that in recovery we often say one day at a time?
If I just think of it forever, it's just too overwhelming and it's off-putting. I've been fortunate that my friends have been really supportive, but some of them have been quite shocked when I told them that I was going into recovery to stop drinking, because they didn't realise that I had a problem, because I was kind of like party girl, like, woo, come on, let's party. And I found out that I'd actually poisoned my bone marrow with binge drinking.
The aim is to make the problem as visible as possible and to make those suffering aware that they're always supported.
As society as a whole, you know, it is an issue that there isn't enough understanding of it. I think, you know, even from a young age in schools, this addiction affects anyone at any time. And, you know, a lot of people in the addiction are powerless over it. You know, it's not a choice that they want to make.
The new approach doesn't seek to replace short-term addiction treatments, but rather to ensure that people stay clean for the long term through continued support.
I think what we're seeing now is that it complements one another, that you know, we've got treatment services, but focusing on the recovery shows that people do get better, and we're hoping that there's like a full circle. So if people can see people getting well, hopefully that'll encourage more people to come forward.
Tonight is the recovery graduation, and we do this because this event is just so heartwarming and people love to come and celebrate with their loved ones. You know, recovery is lifelong, so this is the start of that next journey.
Former addicts are graduating today after achieving at least 6 months of staying clean, and these are the professionals and staff who help them on their journey. They believe addiction recovery is something to be celebrated rather than hidden away, and hope that events like these will soon be normal to the public.
I think it's important that we do celebrate it because it's still looked down upon a lot. Like, people still don't want to tell the family and friends about it, or they don't want the picture put on social media.
No, life changes so much, and you change as a person, and you're so proud, and you do want to be celebrated because it's like, do you know what? I've done something really, really hard. I was living with my mum, drinking. I've got my own place now. I've changed my job. Everything's changed, not just the stopping drinking, me as a person and everything about me. So coming here and knowing that you're acknowledged for it, I don't know, it just makes you feel proud. Happy and proud. Yeah.
Moving forward, it's hoped this pride can extend beyond the individuals and positively impact entire communities.
Hi, welcome back to the seminar. So my name is David Best. I am the professor at the Centre of Addiction Recovery Research in the UK, and I want to just give you a quick overview of the background to inclusive recovery cities. The big thing that I think we need to start by saying is this is a fundamental shift in the philosophy of how we go about things. For far too many years, addiction has been dealt with as a short-term acute illness addressed in specialist clinics, and the recovery movement is a fundamental shift away from that philosophy. It switches us from that expert-patient model to much more of a partnership, from focusing on deficits to focusing on strengths, which is so important for the inclusive recovery cities model, because what we want to do is celebrate strengths. Similarly, the location of change goes from being either the specialist clinic or the basement of a church to the broader community. And so the celebration and success of recovery has to happen in the community and to celebrate the achievements given to the community by the recovery world. It's an intrinsically social process. So the assumption is not that recovery happens inside people's heads or inside their bodies, but that recovery happens intrinsically and fundamentally between people. And it spreads as a form of social contagion, a social contagion of hope. And it primarily spreads from professional to peer. And what that means is, as we grow from one recovery city to another, we can't just replicate what happens. We have to identify and work with the strengths and the resources of the places that we have worked with. To some extent, this is not a new thing in the addictions field. And going back as far as 2008, the great William White, guru and expert in addiction recovery, introduced a concept called recovery-oriented systems of care, which he defined as the complete network of indigenous and professional services and relationships that can support the long-term recovery of individuals and families and the creation of values and policies in the larger cultural and policy environment that are supportive of these recovery processes. Our model of inclusive recovery cities takes that framework and moves beyond it. Our aim is effectively to take the idea of a joined up system, but move it from centering around professionals, clinics, courts, hospitals, and move it into community centres, libraries, churches, colleges, universities. And for us, the idea of an inclusive recovery city is effectively a recovery-oriented system of care with more. That it's fundamentally about innovation, about social enterprise, and about contribution. We want to challenge the idea that people in recovery are a drain on their communities and societies, to emphasize the fact that they are an important contributor to the constituency of recovery and to making recovery viable and invisible. An inclusive recovery city is a city where the implementation of recovery models and principles make the city a better place to live for everyone, and which implements a recovery-oriented system of care, not just through institutions, but through people, informal groups and associations, and to enrich and benefit what we call collective efficacy, the radius of trust and communication within a city. An inclusive recovery city is a city where the implementation of recovery models and principles makes the city a better place to live for everyone. And the fundamental starting point is public-facing recovery events, celebrations which challenge stigmatizing and stigmatized attitudes of addiction, that people can't change, that recovery has to happen behind closed doors and in anonymous settings. They are fun celebrations that engage and promote and become public events. They generate through volunteering opportunities and through social enterprise the opportunities for civic participation. And by doing that, they challenge all of those social distance, social exclusion and stigmatizing views. But by doing that, they increase the pathways and the strength of pathways to all kinds of diverse resources within communities, and not just for the recovery community, but for all marginalised and excluded populations. The aim of a recovery city is not just to make it more accessible for people in recovery, but to make it more accessible, viable, and connectable for everybody who suffers from any form of exclusion or marginalisation. Our vision and mission is basically about not just integrating recovery into the community, but making recovery integral to the well-being and flourishing of the community. We know that on average, in any community in the UK, less than 40% of people actively volunteer and contribute to the well-being of their communities. In recovery, from our Life in Recovery survey, 79% of people in long-term recovery actively contribute to community well-being. That's double the rate. We're not only saying be fair and equitable and equable in opportunity, but celebrate recovery, because it will make your community more connected, more effective, and more engaging, and a better place for everybody to live. Dot will talk much more about Middlesbrough as we go forward, but what we want to do is to create hubs of recovery that become linked through spokes, that become villages of recovery, and that the principles of recovery create a model, a vision for an inclusive city in which everybody benefits, and every city benefits according to its own unique set of principles, values, assets, and strengths. Thank you very much, and I'm now going to hand back to Amy.
Thank you, David. That was an amazing presentation, and so many things caught my ear as I was listening that I'll just quick share a couple of them. Just the concept of being as visible as possible. I think that that statement is just such a cool statement, because it really means that it's inspiring change. It's allowing all of us to see what's happening, and also gives us the ability to celebrate the major achievement of recovery, and not something that's just celebrated at one time, but something that's really celebrated every single day. And I loved how you talked about focusing on strengths. A lot of times in this field, we share a lot of data that is discouraging, because we're talking about the number of people using drugs, the number of drug overdoses, a lot of things that are negative, and we know that we have to talk about that stuff, but wouldn't it be great if we could also build on all those positive accomplishments and really talk about not just individual strengths as they achieve this recovery, but also the strengths in our field and things like that. And I just loved the out of the basement and into the community. And I think that that's what's going to make a difference in so many other people's lives is seeing that visible recovery in their communities. So thank you very much for the presentation. And I will stop talking and allow this to go over to the rest of our wonderful speakers on the agenda. And next, it is my pleasure to welcome Milka Nisik. Milka is the research officer at the Center for Hate Studies at the University of Leicester, and she is the Secretary General of the Recovered Users Network, more commonly known as RUN. She is a founding member of the Global Gender Committee within the World Federation Against Drugs and was recently voted in as part of the board. She brings decades of active engagement in the field of policy and recovery from addiction. Her current research explores the lived experience of individuals in recovery and gendered recovery pathways across 9 European countries, focusing on recovery capital and stigma's role. Thank you for being here today, Milka, and thank you for helping to organize this great event, and I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, Amy, and thank you everybody for joining us today, especially ISSUP for hosting this event. So I'm going to start with saying a little bit about the Balkans and the kind of context within our project. So in the dynamic yet highly stigmatized post-war landscape of the Balkans, this initiative started within the Choose Recovery project that kind of emerged as a beacon of change in this region, marked with lots and lots of complex histories and ongoing social political challenges. And the stigma levels were very high. So the project was born out of the kind of need to address the stigma and exclusion. And this collaboration was between the 3 recovery organizations, Celebrate Recovery, Preporod, and Izlazak from Bosnia, Serbia, and Montenegro, and also partnering up with World Federation Against Drugs to have a unique mission to really address the stigma, exclusion, and also to kind of build a systematic approach towards drug addiction and recovery. So the project ran in 3 phases, starting in 2015 with the initial needs assessment, revealing critical issues. And it's very different to what's happening in, for example, America and also UK, because the recovery was never visible there. We had lack of public institutional interest in addiction problem, services provided in isolation, and there were no coordinated approaches. And the number of community responses and organizations working in the field was really decreasing over time, especially in the rural areas of the 3 countries. And in response to these findings, in the next phases, we involved establishing the community counseling centers and also helplines in Bosnia, Serbia, and Montenegro, but also we conducted series of multi-sectorial meetings to address these identified gaps. So when the next phase of our last year in our second phase, David published a paper about inclusive recovery cities that he mentioned, and we realized that this is something we really want to build on and develop our initiative and strengthen the local responses to meet the needs of local people. So in our kind of first phase, it became evident that the community's significance has been downplayed and that social capital was not kind of sufficient to build on recovery movement. So it was obvious to us that communities not only varied in numbers and types of resources, but it also was visible that differences are around accessible resources, but also how marginalized populations have high levels of inequality in society, meaning actually we are not all in the same boat. We might be in the same storm, but some have, boats, canoes, and some are really drowning. So on a positive note, we kind of saw that there are many recovery organizations and also kind of non-addiction related community initiatives that can significantly support this process. So we started by building asset-based community development workshop trainings all over the region, And beyond that, we kind of had a vision to share knowledge, create contagious effects, cascade these innovations, and also build kind of compassionate, interconnected communities. And so while the all of these kind of positive things and negative things, we look at them as barriers in terms of discrimination and stigmatization, exclusions also, and they are around housing, employment, treatment, recreation, and active citizenship. So to get a better insight in how stigma was spread across the Balkans, we led 3 regional stigma studies. And the first one kind of revealed that while people are generally supportive of individuals to access treatment and recovery, there is a reluctance to have them as neighbors, to host treatment services in their neighborhood, and subsequent study as well among the professionals in health, social, and criminal justice systems echoed these concerns and highlighted the persistent skepticism even within the professional cycles who should be supporting people in recovery. So these findings also illuminate kind of critical barriers faced by those in recovery. And interestingly, the fear expressed in our communities often lacks kind of basis in personal experiences. So the positive attitudes that we, apart from these negatives that you can see on the slide, positive attitudes were notably found among those who have lived, worked, or been friends with someone who had a history of addiction and recovery, underscoring really the impact of knowledge and personal contact in reducing stigmatizing behaviors. So making recovery visible and kind of discussable among all of these stakeholders emerged as a critical strategy in fostering our inclusive recovery cities, and we saw kind of need to address structural and personal biases among the professionals as essential to maximize the lived experience and also long-term recovery. And we started developing these multidisciplinary teams, which were part of the inclusive recovery cities, working together with local organizations and people in recovery. And this is just an example from Serbia, where we managed to establish 7 inclusive recovery cities with a commitment from government to expand this work in every city across the nation. So our objective was to establish 12 inclusive recovery cities within this project because it was funded externally. But we managed to establish 14, and this expansion really signifies the tremendous success of this initiative, but also the support of Drug Office in Serbia, and stands really as a testament to dedication of the hard work, but also the influence of growth and of the recovery cities model. And these organizations have really undertaken inspiring initiatives to bridge these gaps in the system, making recovery services accessible, available, free, but also making recovery visible and celebrating recovery. And these are just a couple of photos from initiatives that took place in the past year or so. So the celebrations of Recovery Month, facilitating groups for women, doing some workshops in school, running furniture shops, Christmas in the city, and also our powerful Photo Voice project. It really was visually amplifying the narratives of recovery. And this really aligns with the CHIME framework that is taken from the mental health recovery and really adapted to this field. And we actually identified that all of the supports for people in recovery need to provide connections and need to kind of be cultivate the sense of hope, as David has said, affirming that the change is possible, and encourage kind of people in meaningful activities, and also subsequently reinforcing positive identity and also culminating in a sense of empowerment. And I'll just gonna briefly mention these two cities because they have really gone beyond to build their local responses to the needs of people who live in those communities. And the first one is in Serbia, the city called Bačka Palanka. And what they did inside of those multidisciplinary teams, social and welfare services committed to provide monthly financial support to people in recovery. The local municipality was securing the transport for attending the support meetings and groups. Healthcare services were prioritizing appointments for people in recovery to deal with ongoing health and mental health issues. And one of the team members was in court, and he was really trying to support people to facilitate kind of transition from the prison system to rehabilitation system. And the second is in Nikšić, Montenegro, and we had the Center for Support for Women Victims of Domestic Violence and Gender-Based Violence. They joined our partnership and integrated recovery counseling into their services, providing kind of both individual and group sessions, and in a safe environment, addressing either drug use disorders of women or women who have been victims of violence due to partner drug use. And we also conducted an evaluation of this work as a requirement of our project using the CHIME instrument, which we developed. And I will not present all the data here today, but I just wanted to show you this result because the impact of recovery cities in the cities which were established on the identity change was just incredible. And while there was considerable success in this area of identity and empowerment, as you can see on the slide, there are opportunities and really needs for growth and empowerment in fostering meaningful activities and jobs and housing of people in recovery. So in conclusion, our journey towards inclusive recovery cities is really marked by both challenges and successes. But evaluation in each of the recovery cities underscores our commitment to breaking down barriers and creating inclusive environments to meet the local needs of local people. But I just want to leave you with the message that without meaningful infrastructural change, the gains in recovery become significantly diminished. The transformative power of recovery initiatives and recovery celebrations, they spread hope and provide connections and empowerment to this population. But we need tangible system shifts, support structures, and also societal frameworks that will help people with meaningful activities, jobs, and houses. So let's collectively make recovery visible in our communities and empowering individuals to positively transform their identities, but starting with structural and systemic change that really needs to follow the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Milka, for that presentation. So much good information, how these projects and these different initiatives really do serve as a beacon of change, not just for the individual, but for the whole community, and how making that visible really helps that. I also thought of two things while you were talking about it, and a lot of things that we take for granted when we are implementing a program or we're in a program in a community doing kind of what I would call the fun work, right? The part where you're in depth into it is all that goes into it ahead of time, assessing your community to make sure that you have resources available, and if not, what kind of services are missing so that you can make sure that you have all this ready for people when you are starting these initiatives, but also the importance of those research outcomes that you talked about so that you can better understand how to challenge the negative things that come out of the research, but also how to support all and build on and capitalize on all the positive things that you found in the research. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing and for sharing it all with us. It really is inspiring. And I hope that next time when we have one of these webinars next year, we are showing hundreds of more of these projects around the globe. And I think that it would just be so wonderful to have. So thank you so much. Next, I would like to introduce Dot Smith, the CEO of Recovery Connections, a lived experience recovery organization located in the northeast of England. Dot was the recipient of a Churchill Fellowship in 2017 and visited collegiate recovery programs in the US, a concept not yet recognized in the UK at the time. Inspired by the film The Anonymous People, which she watched in 2013, Dot became deeply involved in the visible recovery movement. After her fellowship, she successfully launched a collegiate recovery program at Teesside University and has been instrumental in fostering the development of similar initiatives across the nation. I'm especially excited to hear about her work with this population of young adults, and it is my pleasure to turn the floor over to her.
Thank you. I've just hopefully shared my screen now. Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. So really grateful to ISSUP for the invitation to really follow on from David and Mulke in terms of the inclusive recovery cities concept and how we have mobilised that within Middlesbrough, which is a town in the northeast of England, and it sadly, you know, we have some of the highest drug-related deaths nationally and some of the highest areas of deprivation and, you know, incidences of intergenerational addiction. We, as Recovery Connections, are a lived experience recovery organisation, and what that means is all of our staff have some link to recovery. Over 90% of our workforce are in recovery themselves from their own addiction or that of a family member. And we have developed very much a place-based recovery community within the town of Middlesbrough over the last 16 years. But I think more intentionally over the last 5 or 6 years around visible recovery within the town to try and offer that hope and purpose for people who aspire for recovery or, you know, just need to be connected to a community. So I'm just going to talk around the slide that David shared earlier to give you an idea of how that looks within a place-based model. So we're commissioned as part of the drug and alcohol treatment services, and we provide the residential rehab and the recovery support. So we work in partnership with other providers and other partners who provide the medical intervention and also the care coordination and navigation for people who are accessing drug and alcohol treatment. And within that, people will start their journey within the treatment element, and they have an offer to go into residential rehab. Not everybody does, but for those that do go into residential rehab, they stay with us for 24 weeks. So it's a 6-month residential program. So it's a really intensive program of recovery. For those that don't want the intensive opportunity in rehab, we provide a range of therapeutic, recovery-based and recovery capital building programs within a recovery community centre, and also provide the social aspect that within the culture of recovery within our community, we really help people to find their purpose, develop the skills and experience they need to have their own agency and to start to plan what they want to achieve. And how we define within our mission is helping people to live their best life. And within that, we recognise that we have a lot of work to do within the local community and society in general in terms of challenging stigma. And within the film, you saw the free hot coffee bike that goes out and about in the town, offering free coffee in exchange for a conversation. And that has really helped us put a face to recovery. It's helped us to reduce stigma. It's also helped people to find their way into treatment or recovery support, because despite being very visible, there are still a lot of people out there that don't know that there is a treatment opportunity for their addiction in the local area. We also provide employment support to help people get back into work, building up their recovery capital and helping them develop their employability skills. Now, we employ, most of our staff have actually been supported by us at some point over the last 9 years. So, we fully understand that the needs of people around employability, because for a lot of our staff, we are their first employer. So it really is about developing those work placement skills to allow people to successfully get a job, maintain it, retain it, and also, move on through their career. As well as at the employability support, we provide workplace support to employers within the local area. We work with Teesside's biggest employer to help them develop a culture of recovery within their 1,400 employees, to help challenge stigma, to help educate people around addiction and what to look for and how to approach it if we recognise it. And we also have a recovery coach that works within that workplace for 3 days a week, building relationships, putting a face on recovery, reducing the fear and the misunderstandings of what addiction is and how it shows up. We are having some great results with that project. After a period of time of having no employees asking for help, in a very short space of time, they had 6 people actually ask to be supported by us in terms of their drug and alcohol concerns. We're present on Teesside University campus, providing collegiate recovery support, helping students in recovery to navigate the education system and to really thrive within the education setting, and also acknowledging that as a person in recovery, they are generally isolated because of the student life tends to be centred around the nighttime economy, which involves alcohol. So we've been able to support many students and equally support people who have come through our residential rehab and our recovery support systems who haven't ever believed that they can go back into education. We've helped them hold that aspiration, move through to university and successfully graduate. So it really is an opportunity for us to get recovery into other areas that historically, especially in the UK from an education setting, really see recovery and understand the needs of students in recovery. We provide training across the whole of the localities. We offer recovery ally training, which again helps members of the general public. It helps our neighbours within the streets where we're placed. It helps anybody who has an interest or a need to understand recovery, what that looks like, how to have a compassionate approach in terms of recovery language, stigmatising language, and also the toolbox to know where to send somebody for help. And then getting back to our recovery community and events and activities that we provide locally. We offer a range of activities throughout the year that is open to the general public. We have a big community garden. We also have a social enterprise that is a cafe that's open to the public, and we offer an opportunity for the recovery community and the local community to come together and just have some fun, you know, whether that is within our community garden, whether that is having a celebration, a garden fete, whether it's putting something on for the local children in the school holidays. It really is just about helping people become more informed and less fearful around recovery. But equally, it's about people in recovery coming together and having fun. You know, people really learning how to laugh again, coming together with everybody. And, you know, we always participate in the recovery games, which, you know, Doncaster's inclusive recovery city. So, you know, the top left-hand picture is us going across to Doncaster to participate in recovery games. We take part in Pride every year. We put our own events on, and we participate in the wider recovery network events nationally. So, you know, it really is about coming together and just helping people learn to enjoy life, participate in life, and to be welcomed to live their life in the place that they live. Thank you. And hopefully I can stop sharing, but there we go.
Thank you so much, Dot. I couldn't help but smile at those pictures at the end. It looked like I want to leave this webinar and join those fun activities. It just looks like such an amazing time. And thank you for the work that you're doing in these communities, offering the hope and purpose, and that connectivity I think is so important. I also was thinking when you were talking about the coffee thing, also how it just allows somebody to be heard. You know, and you're asking them for those 5 minutes of conversation, but that really gives them the opportunity to have their feelings validated, being heard, and sometimes that's all it takes to take that next step, right? So that's so important. And I also love that you're working with the employers and the universities and helping both employees and students really navigate things that could sometimes be very complicated systems on getting things done and connecting to resources. So great job. Thank you for everything you're doing, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Next, it is my pleasure to welcome our last, but certainly not least of our speakers, my dear friend and colleague, Regina Mattsson. Regina is the Secretary General of World Federation Against Drugs and supported in the implementation of WFAD's 10-year strategic plan to focus particularly on children's rights and women. As a board member of the UN Women Sweden, chair of UN Women Gothenburg, there's a lot here, and previous vice chair of the Gender and Development in Practice, Regina has long experience of women's rights issues. She holds a bachelor in social work and a master's in international global studies with a focus on gender issues and conflict resolution. Prior to being with WFAD, Regina worked for the City of Gothenburg Unit of Integration, supporting unaccompanied minors and refugee families arriving in Sweden. Regina, the floor is yours. I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I always make the comment that the younger we are, the longer the bios need to be, and that's kind of how I feel right now with that long introduction. But I thank you so much, Amy, and I hope that I'm able to share my screen all right. So just some short words about WFAD. I think Amy mentioned it in the beginning. We're a network of non-governmental organizations and individuals working to strengthen prevention, increase access to treatment, and to promote recovery. And like Amy mentioned, we place particular emphasis on the rights and the needs of women and children in our field. Our work stems from 3 pillars: advocacy, capacity strengthening, and projects. Now I see myself, I'm not sure if I've done something wrong.
Nope, you're good. I just took myself off.
Oh, all right, wonderful. So I see myself very large. Let me just remove myself. Okay. All right. So we work closely with our members and civil society really to support and bridge the gaps between civil society and national and international stakeholders. And one of our main projects that we've implemented for a long time is the Choose Recovery project in the Western Balkans that Mocha introduced. And for us at WFAD, this project was really instrumental in shaping our internal policies and the structures in which we work. And these long-standing relationships with the project partners not only equipped the staff of WFAD, but also our members with the tools and the methods on how to provide recovery-oriented systems of care, and really capacitated us in the importance of recovery. So ensuring that recovery became an integral part of all of our structures, and really building the foundation on which we stand today, which is strengthening prevention, increasing access to treatment, and really promoting recovery and recovery-oriented systems of care. And so as I have the honor today to conclude our discussions on the transformative power of the inclusive recovery cities models, it really is essential to reflect on the significant impact that this initiative has had, both in policy and in practice. And we heard from Dot and the remarkable efforts in the UK, and we heard from Molka about the Western Balkans. And as I was fortunate enough to be part of this project in the Western Balkans, I can speak to this and really try, or that's my hope anyway, to showcase how this project, this Choose Recovery project, serves as a testament to the positive and sustainable changes that can be achieved when communities come together with a strength-based approach to really address addiction and recovery. So since its inception in 2015, the Choose Recovery project illuminated the path towards a more inclusive society in each of the implementing countries. And it really not only showcased that recovery was there, but it was also celebrating recovery and celebrating people in recovery, as we heard as part of this inclusive cities model. And through the collaboration with Celebrate Recovery, Preparod, and ISSUP, we witnessed a remarkable journey from stigma and exclusion to really hope and reintegration. Additional to the project's huge success in supporting the target group through activities and services spanning these 3 countries, one of the main achievements within this framework of inclusive cities really was the deep-rooted collaboration between civil society and local and national actors. And as we heard earlier, the project partners established 14 multidisciplinary teams across the 3 countries, which really helped to strengthen the credibility of the organizations, but also of the project, whilst creating this sustainable change. And in addition to the outcomes that Molka showcased, I wanted to highlight also that throughout the years we held several national and international conferences on drug addiction and recovery. And the second and final one was held in Serbia in November 2022. You see a photo from there. And it really offered an important opportunity not only to exchange best practices within our sector, but also beyond our sector. Because this forum was attended by 200 professionals from different fields, including substance use and recovery fields, but also other fields that correlate in shaping these inclusive cities. And one of the unexpected outcomes that emerged from this substantial attendance was that our conference was named one of the largest of its kind in the region. And this recognition really reinforced the credibility not only of our implementing partners, but also of the achievements of the project in building these inclusive cities where different sectors come together to have a strength-based approach in celebrating recovery and offering recovery-oriented systems of care. To map the outcomes of the inclusive cities models, the partners conducted interviews and mapping that included the institutions for addiction disease, but also the different offices on drugs in the various countries. And the focus was on gathering insight and perspectives on the impact of improving recovery services throughout the project. And these interviews really were very proud because they really revealed a positive perception, not only of the project partners and their credibility, but also their contributions to the field of recovery. And I highlighted 4 outcomes here. These are, in broad terms from a lot of data, but the first one being enhanced collaboration. The presence of the implementing partners within the recovery system really fostered an improved collaboration between civil society and treatment providers. This collaboration also resulted in more effective coordination and communication between the different stakeholders, which in turn, of course, led to better outcomes for individuals in their recovery journey. The second is the supportive approach. So the implementing partners really demonstrated a supportive and compassionate approach, this strength-based approach, when interacting with the target groups and the people that they were offering service to, people in recovery. And their understanding of addiction as a complex health issue rather than a moral failing really supported and contributed to a reduction in stigma and created a more inclusive and, empathic, I can't pronounce that word, but empathic environment for those seeking recovery in their different cities and in their societies. The third one I wanted to highlight based on the outcomes is access to resources. Really, through this project, the implementing partners facilitated an increased access to resources and services for individuals in need. And this includes a very clear gender approach. As we know, women have particular barriers in accessing treatment, and this project really had a clear gendered approach that offered services to people within their situation and context, but also gender-sensitive approaches, which was instrumental as well for the good outcomes. Our colleagues in the Western Balkans really supported in connecting individuals to appropriate treatment programs, also through mapping of other services, could refer to other community resources, and thereby, contributing to improving the overall support available for recovery for people. And the fourth is about public awareness and education. And really, they've actively engaged public awareness campaigns and educational initiatives aimed at promoting a greater understanding of addiction and recovery. And it's also this work that our project partners have done has helped to dispel misconceptions, and it's helped to reduce barriers in accessing treatment while also encouraging a more supportive and informed community. So overall, the outcomes of this mapping was a huge success. And we had a lot of, support when it comes to the collaborative efforts that truly make an inclusive society. The interviews revealed truly a unanimous consensus among these key actors that were interviewed that the project partners are widely recognized as experts in the field. So moving from experts by experience to experts with experience, which was one of our aims throughout those projects. And they were really acknowledged for their exceptional training, having equipped the MDTs with necessary skills to address the complex challenges related to substance use dependency, but also the impact on policy was highlighted, that these partners played a significant role in publishing the first ever guidelines for these sectors involving involving drug demand reduction efforts. So these guidelines have served as a valuable research for professionals from various backgrounds, offering standardized protocols and best practices to enhance the effectiveness of interventions and support systems. And this sentiment was echoed by the Serbian Office for Combating Drugs, who highlighted in their feedback that the establishment of these multidisciplinary teams across the country were, and I quote here, pivotal outcome of this collaboration. And these MDTs really that operated on city level have been instrumental in not only disseminating information, providing support, fostering awareness, facilitating knowledge exchange, but really increase the possibilities for these societies to come together and work towards becoming inclusive recovery cities. So really by championing the concept of recovery and actively involving both service users and professionals, it was deemed that the establishment through these MDTs have created a network that promotes inclusivity, improves visibility, and enhances the credibility also of the Office on Drugs in Serbia. So coming to the conclusions, I also really wanted to say that this initiative and this project has profoundly impacted WFAD and our membership. So we've successfully integrated the aim of promoting recovery and recovery-oriented systems of care within our own structures and our own advocacy. And it's really been instrumental in shaping our internal policies, but also the policies that we strive to impact on international levels. And not only that, the partners of the Choose Recovery Project really shaped the policies and practices within their local and national context that resulted in long-term and sustainable positive societal changes. So through collaborative efforts and a strength-based approach, they influenced comprehensive policy implementation addressing addiction and recovery. And this includes, like I mentioned, developing sector-specific guidelines, enhancing professional training, and establishing MDTs, which have become key components in each of the country's national strategies. And the project's impact transcends the local level, so it transcends the cities and really has shown policy advancements that have been adopted by national governments that foster recovery-oriented systems of care and promote this inclusivity and community cohesion. So in conclusion, the inclusive recovery cities models exemplified here, hopefully well through this presentation by the Choose Recovery project, really is proven to be a powerful catalyst for positive change. By fostering sustainable partnerships and promoting recovery-oriented systems of care, we have made significant strides in reducing stigma and enhancing the visibility of recovery. And the collaboration and shared vision of all stakeholders have been instrumental in creating a network that promotes the resources of a recovery city, recovery capital, and supports individuals on their recovery journey. So this way, by sharing stories like today, by highlighting the efforts made in the UK, in the Western Balkans, and across the globe, by attending webinars by and for people in recovery, we're able to highlight an authentic way of sharing information and ensuring that the dissemination of positive and hopeful success stories. So this contributes to creating visibility and reducing stigma. And we can see that by working together and by learning from one another, we can continue to demonstrate that recovery is not only possible, it happens. And when it does, it has a positive and impactful efforts on the society as a whole. So thank you so much for having me, and I'll hand back over to Amy.
Thank you, Regina. Great job as always. Thank you for really, I think, highlighting the collaboration efforts between civil society, between local and national partners. And like you said, that really was illustrated after this project as well. It's those relationships continue. We saw those local partners, those member states at C&D, and we were able to connect them on other issues. And it really is just a phenomenal partnership. And it really showcases the fact that, and it's become a little, cliche to say, I guess, but we really are all in this together. And it takes all of us working on this to provide these resources, to provide the inspiration for all of this to move forward. And that we might be starting by helping that one individual, but the reality is it goes so much farther, and it really goes into the whole community, which then becomes a global community, and which is what we're kind of emphasizing here today by being able to have this wonderful webinar. So I thank each and every one of you for your contributions to this great event. I was so engaged in listening to each one of you that I forgot a few times that I also had to be paying attention to screens and moderating. But we've heard from such remarkable speakers who have shared their innovative approaches to recovery programs, showing us how to challenge the stigma and foster the community engagement. Their experiences and insights have provided us with valuable lessons and practical strategies that we can hopefully take back to our own communities. As we move forward, let us remember that the importance of inclusivity and the active citizenship in our recovery efforts. Building supportive and resilient communities requires a collective approach, and every one of us has a role to play in promoting early intervention, prevention, and social inclusion. I know that we did have a couple questions and we are coming to our time period. So I am going to ask one of those, but I did get this individual's email because I believe they had to leave early, and I'm not sure who would be the best to answer this question. But if I wanted to bring a recovery city to my city, how would I go about doing that? Which one of you can provide that? Is there a place that I can go, a website? Who would I connect with to do so?
There is a website out there.
David is the best one to answer that.
Well, look, I think if you contact any of us, we'd all be delighted to help and support you with this. Basically, we have a pack that allows you to access and support inclusive recovery cities, and
email any of us and we'll help as much as we can.
Wonderful. I'll make sure that I get that information to, I believe it was Tyler who put that in the chat, and I wrote his email address down. So I hope that you all leave here today feeling inspired and equipped with new ideas to implement into your own work. Together, we can create cities that are not only inclusive, but also supportive of every individual's journey toward recovery. Thank you once again to all of our speakers, their valuable contributions, and to all of you who took time out of your schedules today to participate and engage with this webinar. And also, of course, to ISSUP, who provided us with this platform and always is very supportive of all the work that we're doing and encouraging this professional development within our field, and to the Center of Addiction Recovery Research, both for hosting this event today. Let us continue to work together to build a brighter, more inclusive future. With that, I wish you all to have a great rest of your day or evening, and I look forward to seeing you online at future events and hopefully in person soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.